Welcome back. We have been discussing corruption at the highest levels of government, now connecting the dots to the national security threats that these actions represent. Today is the start of the CCP's 20th National Congress in Beijing, where President Xi Jinping is expected to be anointed dictator for life while securing a third term. Since President Nixon's historic visit to China 50 years ago to meet with Chairman Mao Zedong, China's economy has exploded from almost $114 billion in 1972 to nearly $18 trillion in 2021, second only to the United States. Some say the CCP has done this partly by stealing secrets and intellectual property from the West, importantly from America. Joining me right now on the threat China possesses to the U.S. national security, including after Biden's family influence peddling, former Secretary of State and Fox News contributor Mike Pompeo. Mr. Secretary, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thanks very much for being here.
Good morning. It's great to be with you, Maria.
So you've heard what we've been talking about this morning. Can you connect the dots to a national security threat that this represents?
Undoubtedly, if you have senior leaders, certainly the President of the United States and his family members, but I also think of the folks that are in the Biden administration's cabinet who worked on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party. They had clients in China, deeply connected. I think we're only beginning to pull the threads. And if you don't have actors who are putting the American people first, if there are other things, personal family interests or former business interests or friends that are still out doing that kind of peddling, it creates enormous national security risk. We need presidents, leaders at every level across the country focus singularly on representing the people they've been elected to serve.
I mean, talk a bit about what the CCP's goals are. Here we are on the beginning of the new People's Congress, and their stated goal has been to become the #1 superpower, overtaking the United States. It obviously easier to do if you've got a commander-in-chief who's compromised.
No doubt. Look, it's been very clear for a couple of decades that this was their mission set. The Chinese Communist Party has been at war with the United States, economic war, for all of that time. The United States just turned the other cheek. This has been Republican and Democrats alike. We were the first administration to confront them in a serious way. You gave the economic statistics about the Chinese economic growth. That was almost all on the backs of the American people. Jobs, millions of them here at home, lost intellectual property that you described. The only way they were able to grow was by cheating and then having the West allow the Chinese Communist Party to compete on terms that made it fundamentally unfair for American companies. No, we need leaders that are prepared to address this, to challenge it. When we do, we'll be successful. I'm confident of that. But if there's any doubt about the Chinese Communist Party's intentions, these next couple days where the Chinese Communist Party Congress is meeting, I think will put a lie to any doubt about the Chinese objective.
That is just extraordinary. And China sent a letter to the Hudson Institute about you. Tell me about that letter and why it is that they are so afraid of what you were able to do on your term. You had indictments, a string of indictments out of the DOJ, which basically underlined exactly what was taking place. The embassy in Houston, you shut down because of the surveillance from the CCP. University professors who were sending information to the CCP and getting paid for it.
We were determined to protect the United States from the threats from the Chinese Communist Party. This letter you talked about to the Hudson Institute, where I work as a policy fellow, basically said, Mike Pompeo, shut up. And Hudson Institute, you should shut up. All we'd done, frankly, in the day before that or the days before was just talk about how the Chinese Communist Party is corrupt and doesn't truly represent the Chinese people. You can see that with the protests that are taking place today. But I think it was deeper than that. I think they're sending a message to every American leader. I think the note to me wasn't really to me. It was to every American leader. It says, if you challenge us, if you threaten us, if you shut down our spying operations in the United States, if you begin to prosecute and indict those that are stealing secrets at our universities, then we'll come after you too in the same way they've come at me by sanctioning me and making things difficult for those around me as well. They are determined, they are serious, and our response needs to equal that in every measure, Maria.
It is just extraordinary. My question is, why is this administration continuing to roll over for these dictators and these adversaries against America? Take Iran. We've had nearly 5 weeks of countless innocent lives lost during peaceful protests in Iran. We are seeing courage in plain sight by women, by the Iranian people, calling for the supreme leader's death. Isn't it time to hear something about this from the administration? We have not heard a word about what's taking place in Iran right now from this administration. Instead, they're continuing to pursue an Iran deal, which, of course, would strengthen the hand of the Iranian leadership. Your thoughts on what's going on right now in Iran?
Well, first of all, bless these protesters. I hope the Lord watches over them. They have been courageous. They have been strong. They are putting the lie to what the Islamic Republic's regime has done to them for so many years, and more power to them. I wish them every success. But those wishes are insufficient when you have an American government that has essentially sided with the regime. They came in, Maria, you'll remember, within days and lifted sanctions against the Houthis. They said, well, no, they're not sufficient terrorists that we're going to continue to sanction them. And they've stopped enforcing the rest. They've been trying to cut this crazy deal that guarantees a pathway to a nuclear weapon for the Iranian regime and gives them billions of dollars more to terrorize the very women that are out in the streets protesting. It is crazy. And now the Iranians are sending weapons to the Russians as well. This will be bad for the Ukrainians, the very people we're supporting. I don't understand this policy. I hope they'll change their direction. The Biden administration, I see no indication of that.
I'm really glad you mentioned that. They're sending weapons now to Russia to strengthen Russia's hand as it kills Ukrainians. Secretary, you are out with a new book. It is called Never Give an Inch. It is available for pre-order right now. Congratulations on the book. You, of course, never gave an inch on your time. Thanks very much for being here this morning, sir. Thank you.
Have a great day, ma'am.
And to you, Secretary Mike Pompeo. Quick break.